guys, welcome to Cinnamon Babe Horror Stories. I'm Cinnamon Babe, and every Friday I discuss creepy topics while I do my makeup. So if that interests you, please like and subscribe, and please enjoy the video. So Julie was born in Colombia. Julie's family, dating back 5 generations, were all involved in occultism. In Colombia, it is pretty common for entire families to be involved in witchcraft, and so this is something that was like the norm, the societal norm for her. Julie says that she did not grow up in a Christian home, obviously, and she never really was taught about Jesus or about the dark side of spirituality, but she would have her first dark encounter at just the age of 4 years old. So one night she was laying in bed with her mother, and her mom was asleep, but she was wide awoke. She was very adamant that she was wide awoke. And she says out of nowhere she hears something enter the room, and it's speaking in tongues and it's singing. She says as it gets closer, she can feel its hands grab her legs and hold on to them. And it's singing and speaking in tongues over, almost as if it's casting a spell over her. Julie was too afraid to scream. Mind you, she's only 4 years old. She doesn't understand what's going on. She's never experienced anything like this. And so she just laid there until it just finally left. And then she was somehow able to fall back asleep. And when she woke up the next morning, she told her mom what happened. And I believe her mom just kind of brushed her off and thought she was crazy, because throughout the day, Julie kept looking into the mirror. And Julie said when she would look into the mirror, she would see fire shooting out of her eyes. So Julie's experience with darkness and dark spirits, the experience continued. And one day her grandmother decided to initiate her into witchcraft. And so I believe it was her great-grandmother. Her great-grandmother took her to a man, and the man put her in a circle and then lit the circle on fire. And so here she is at 4 or 5 years old, just sitting in a ring of fire while her grandmother and this man are performing rituals and praying over her. And she said that she could feel something activate over her. So I guess Julie had an aunt that was Christian on some level, probably a Christian or somebody who believes they're Christian and goes to church but still kind of practices occultism. So one day her aunt took her, when she was 5 years old, to church, and they put her at the altar and prayed over her. And she says that after that she felt like she had some type of protection over her, because she had many near-death experiences. She's had near fatal accidents, car accidents. She said that she almost fell off of a horse when she was 5, and she said when she fell, she felt something grab her waist and gently place her onto the ground safely. And she said when she turned to look at who did it, she said there was no one within arm's reach, and her family was just looking how did that happen? Eventually, at the age of 6, Julie and her family moves to Spain. And I'm not sure how many family members went with her, but it sounds like her mother, her father, and maybe an aunt. Not 100% sure. But she says life gets a little better once she moved to Spain. She said back in Colombia, she was experiencing some abuse, some trauma, and that, the mishaps, she kept getting into accidents where it would almost take her life, but she says she felt like something was protecting her. But even though life was getting better in Spain, Julie said that she began to have strange dreams, and sometimes these unexplainable strange dreams would come true. One night, Julie dreamed that a train exploded and there was people screaming everywhere, and this really scared Julie. So the next morning, it was September, she woke up and had breakfast, and the news was playing, and on TV there was a train explosion due to a terrorist attack, and it literally was exactly how it was in her dream. And so Julie's mother introduced her to a white witch, and a white witch is someone who practices witchcraft selflessly. I can't talk today. And they help others, and they have good intentions behind their their acts, their practices. Well, the White Witch took Julie under her wing and began to mentor her and basically teach her about manifesting, crystals, the power of words, and how you can bring things into fruition by like your tongue. And so Julie really took that to heart. A few years later, the family decided to move north of Spain, and that is where Julie's father is from. And she said at this time, things just started to get really bad because now they're away from the White Witch who had good intentions, and now Julie's mom befriended a Black Witch, and Black Witches practice witchcraft in the way where they have bad intentions, they do curses, they want to cause harm to others, and it's not selfless. So Julie said that she would see her mom and the Black Witch do like tarot card readings, and a lot of times tarot card readings aren't really meant for bad intentions, but they can be used for bad intentions. So say if someone doesn't like you and they're like, hey, can I read your cards or whatever, like do a reading for you, and you're like, sure, they use the information against you. Like they're able to like put curses on you based on what the tarot card said. Julie informed in the video that there are many like Christians and people who don't believe that they practice the black arts or white witchcraft, that are actually doing it and don't know it. So for example, crystals, smudging, like using sage, going out into nature and speaking to like the plants and the earth and stuff, that's all considered white witchcraft. Tarot cards, white witchcraft. Watching movies like that involve witchcraft opens portals and invites evil spirits into your life. So she just wanted to like let people know like that's all a part of it. When this Black Witch met Julie for the first time, she was like stunned, and she was like, she told Julie's mother, your daughter has a gift and I need to mentor her. So Julie's mother invited other witches to come in, and they were all dressed in white, and they put Julie in a circle and they began to pray and welcome a spirit guide into Julie's life. So this spirit guide is a deity that only can be called upon by witches that are chosen to do it. I don't know exactly what the process is in that. Like you have to be chosen in order to call upon the spirit for it to enter your life. And so they began to call upon this deity, and Julie said that she felt its presence like either come over her or basically be near her. And so she said from that day on, she could feel its presence whenever it was in the room. She said she became ultra sensitive to it, and she said there were times where she would wake up in the middle of the night and she would hear it walking around in the house. She referred to it as him. She would hear him breaking glasses in the kitchen, and she said she wasn't afraid because they told her that this was her spirit guide, something that was supposed to like watch over her and protect her and bless her. So she wasn't afraid. So by this time, Julie was a teenager, and she said that she just began to be very aggressive, and she felt powerful because she was still being trained in the black arts by this Black Witch. And she said that whenever like people at school would bother her or like bully her or talk about her, she said, that's all right, I'll just go home and I'll put curses on them. And she would talk to her spirit guide and ask for like curses to be put on people that she didn't like's life. She said that one day her boyfriend cheated on her with another girl, and so Julie was very angry about it. So her way of getting back was she was just going to put a curse on the girl that he was with. Later on in life, Julie ended up getting back in contact with this boyfriend, and I guess he was still with the girl, and I guess Julie was having dreams about the girl because she was like still thinking about, man, I put a curse on her and I shouldn't have done that. And she said that her boyfriend told her that the girl was in the hospital, and the reason why she was in the hospital, she was dying from a fall. She had fallen and somehow hit her head, and her brain was damaged, and so she was in the hospital dying. So later on in life, like at this time when this was going on, Julie ended up getting saved, and she said that she repented for putting a curse on this woman, and she prayed with the woman and, tried to, see if God would heal her, but she just was too far gone. And she said she had a dream about the girl, and the girl was just telling her, like, it's okay, like everything's gonna be okay now. And the next morning she found out that the girl had died. So back to the part where before Julie had gotten saved. So one night Julia had dreamed, I keep calling her Julia. Julie had dreamed that there were blackbirds swooping down to attack her. And once they reached her, her dad jumped in the way and they started pecking and eating at his head. And so this dream really freaked her out. And when she woke up, it was time for her to do a ritual. And at this time, she lived with the Black Witch. She said that she lived with her for at least a week at this time. Her and a bunch of other witches, and I believe her mother, were doing a ritual outside of the house they lived in. And out of nowhere, the Black Witch became possessed and her voice changed. And she said, she looked at Julie and her mother and she said, someone in your family is going to die a week from today. And everybody was shocked and scared and not knowing what to do. And the Black Witch, with something speaking out of her, kept saying, do you want to know who it is? Do you want to know who it is? Like pestering, like, do you want to know who it is? Over and over. And Julie was like, no, because she was so afraid. She said because at this time she had became suicidal because she said she just felt so depleted and exhausted because she just constantly had to give and give and give to this demon that was overseeing her life. And she said it never was enough. So she had become suicidal. She had attempted suicide a couple times and failed, or just probably changed her mind. And so when the demon kept asking, like, do you want to know who it is that's going to die in your family? She said, no, I don't want to know. And she said at that point they had ended the ritual session. They had ended it because everybody was so afraid and they were not expecting that. So exactly 1 week later, it was Sunday, September 28th, 2008. While still living with this woman, Julie's mother called the Black Witch and was like, hey, you need to bring Julie to my house ASAP. So Julie said on the way to her mother's house, she looked at the Black Witch's face and she said that she just looked strangely calm. And Julie could tell something was wrong because, it was 5 a.m. and her mother called out of nowhere saying, hurry up and bring my daughter back home. But she could tell something like that witch was up to something. But she just was like strangely calm about it. When they finally got to the house, Julie said that her mother and her younger brother, who was 2 years old at the time, were outside of the house crying. And she said she kept asking her mom, what happened? And her mother was crying profusely. She couldn't even get a word out. So she finally just stopped asking her mom what happened, and she just went inside the house. She said the house was so pitch black, it's almost like it was veiled with darkness, where you had to like move stuff out of the way to get through the house. And she just felt an eerie, evil feeling just over the house. It was a dark, deep energy. She said that she was looking for her dad. Her dad wasn't in the house, and she just finally just ran out of the house and went to the back where the shed was. And when she looked in the shed, there her father was hanging. He had took his own life. So Julie moved back in with her mom. And this is right, like literally the day, like right after her dad had died, the day her dad had died, she had moved in. She said that she started to see familiar spirits passing by her room that looked exactly like her dad. And at the time, she believed they were her dad. But in witchcraft, familiar spirits are believed to be spirits that are assigned to a family to like help them. But in Christianity, familiar spirits are believed to be shape-shifting demons that pretend to be the dead, usually someone you know or care about, to gain access and trust into your life. Well, at this time, Julie believed that she had got possessed because 5 days later, she was in such a trance that she can't even remember what she did. And she said that her mother found her in the shed trying to end her life the same exact way that her dad had ended his life. She tried to hang herself. And so at this point, Julie's mom was like, I'm done. We got to get out of this house. We have to move right now because something is trying to like end our life. So they packed up and moved to a aunt's house. And at this time, Julie's friend, who was the White Witch, called her out of the blue. not the black witch, the white witch. She called her out of the blue, and she was like, hey, I was trying to astral project to come visit you at your house, and when I got there, the house was shrouded in like a black cloth, and I couldn't enter. What happened? And so Julie's mother explained what happened. She said, hey, my husband had committed suicide, and we moved. We don't live there anymore. And so the white witch explained to her, like, you know, you're friends with that black witch. She didn't have good intentions. I believe that she had something to do with what happened. So at this point, Julie's mother was done. She cut ties with the white witch. She cut ties with the black witch. And she picked up a Bible and she just started reading scriptures and converted to Christianity. So Julie met this change with resistance. She was angry at her mother because she felt like this was all her mom's fault in the first place. You know, this is how she was raised. And, you know, Julie still looked at herself as a witch, even though her mother was, you know, making her read Psalms and Bible scriptures every single day in prayer. At this time, Julie ran away from home and moved in with her boyfriend and was still suicidal, still hated life, still angry. And so a friend invited her to go to church one day. And Julie says when she entered this church, she just felt this warm, loving embrace that she had never experienced before. She felt like someone was like hugging her and giving her all the love that she had never experienced in her life. She said that the apostle of the church came by and looked at her and said, welcome home. And he then gave her a big hug. And she just, from there on, she just kept visiting the church. And she said every time she would come back to the church, she would experience that embrace that she had never felt before. Julie believes that that encounter was from God. Like, it was finally God welcoming her in. And so she dove headfirst into Christianity, and her faith has been ever strong ever since. Okay, so this story really spoke to me. I think it's a really powerful story because it explores into the dangers of witchcraft and occultism, the black arts, the white arts, whatever you want to call it. It explores into that, and it basically shows someone who was a witch by blood. Like, it went back 5 generations. You may have wonderful intentions by practicing witchcraft, voodoo, occultism, anything, or new age spirituality, like having crystals and all that. You may have wonderful intentions. You may not even want to put curses on people. But the problem is, all that belongs to demons and to Satan. It all belongs to them. That is their domain. That is their practice. They own it. They are the originators of it. And so if you try to practice those things, even with good intentions, you're inviting evil spirits into your life and to those around you. And it's very dangerous and harmful. So I would just say, like, with that, just if you're a person who's interested in occultism, just study further into it. Like, I invite you to study further into it before you start even practicing anything. Like, because the first thing you should do with any practice or any belief is look behind it, like look deep into it to see, like, if you can pinpoint the evil that's behind it. And a lot of times it's right up in your face and you just can't see it because it's polished with a bunch of pretty stuff and you can't tell. So yep, that will do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of it, because I really did. It's a really powerful story. And I'm gonna put down in the description where you can get the original video, because it's a really long video, so I kind of summarized it. But please like and subscribe, and please stay tuned for the next video.